Hi, and welcome to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is July 7th, and we're on page 20 in your magazines. And today we are going to talk about some very unusual and very cute critters.
We are talking about meerkats, which, as you may know, were featured in Disney's Lion King. They kind of look like cats, although the Dutch name is pretty funny. We'll get into that later. I don't know how the Dutch came up with their name for meerkats, but to me, I think, I can understand why people would think cat.
And I use the word critters, and that's spelled C-R-I-T-T-E-R plus S, critters. And actually, it comes from the word creatures. What are creatures? Creatures are animals. It doesn't include everything that was created by whoever you think created the universe. It only refers to animals, doesn't include plants. So creatures became critters, and that means animals. And our title is, How Does Disney's Timon Compare with Real Meerkats? I had to get some help from Chris with the pronunciation of two words in this title.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I am a minor expert in the movie The Lion King, Timon and Meerkats. I really liked this movie a lot. I'm not a huge Disney movie fan, but I did see this in the theater, and I have very strong memories of it, being quite blown away by how good it was. And I think the movie stands up. So I was very confident when it came to the names found in our article today.
I have to confess I haven't seen it, but my conclusion now is I better watch it.
It is a classic, especially if you like animation.
Okay, here we go. Anyone who has seen Disney's The Lion King will agree that one of the movie's most popular characters is Timon. Timon, along with his best friend Pumbaa, provides Simba, the movie's protagonist, with what he needs the most when they first encounter him: kindness and loyalty.
While millions of young children have viewed this classic movie, many of them might not be aware that Timon is actually a real-life meerkat, a small mammal native to the desert lands of southern Africa. Meerkats have a unique and adorable appearance, primarily characterized by an upright standing posture and dark patches around their eyes. Particularly, it is their standing pose that sets them apart from other mammals, most of which feel more comfortable on four legs.
Despite their cute appearance, meerkats must adopt clever strategies to survive in the harsh desert environment. They are highly cooperative and social animals living in family groups known as mobs. Each mob has a dominant female in charge, and the other members of the mob have defined roles to ensure that no task is left undone. Some serve as watchers who look out for dangerous predators in the sky like eagles and hawks, while others hunt for food, including fruits, insects, small birds, rodents, and lizards. Meerkat mobs live in homes called burrows, which are essentially underground tunnel systems that enable groups to keep cool in the scorching African sun.
Intelligent and loyal, meerkats are truly not too far removed from the one depicted in the Disney classic. These fascinating creatures are much more than just cute animals and can surely teach us a thing or two about standing up for one another.
That's a nice pun. We'll come back to that later. Our title again, How Does Disney's Timon Compare with Real Meerkats? And I think that title is pretty straightforward. We know that Timon now is a character in the movie The Lion King that we're going to be talking about. And we're talking about meerkats, which is an animal we may not be so familiar with, but actually we see a lot of them on the internet now.
They are very popular animals. They're quite charismatic and playful, and they like to live in groups, and so they like to snuggle and stay warm. There's a lot of cuteness to them. They are very, very big on the cuteness.
Because they stand up, they look a little like people, and they look right at you, like they know what's going on.
They do stare you right in the soul, don't they?
Exactly. Okay, our first paragraph again. Anyone who has seen Disney's The Lion King will agree that one of the movie's most popular characters is Timon. Okay, now, I said that I had to ask Chris about the pronunciation of two words. This is the first one. I looked it up online, and I found two different sources, one on YouTube, and they said, Timon. And I thought, okay, well, I've checked, and then Chris just said, Timon.
I had to plant the flag, but I think this is a really interesting segue that we have to take here. That Karen looked at Google and YouTube and had two popular sources that had the exact same pronunciation, and I flatly knew it was wrong. And I was just like, this is not right. I had to insist that it wasn't right. And like, we need to see these character voice actors. We need to see lines from the movie because this is exactly how it is said. And I'm telling you, Google is wrong here. So I think this is a really good point that you're going to bring up here. We got to be careful of these sources.
You really do have to be careful. There's so much information online that is incorrect, and especially when it comes to pronunciation, because I teach pronunciation and phonetics, so I need to use this stuff, but I no longer trust any of these videos. There's a site called Forva, and they are a collection of a lot of people reading supposedly the correct pronunciation of words. Many of them are wrong. Many are wrong. Never trust them. So in this situation, how do you get better information? Chris was absolutely right. He said, go and find a clip from the movie. Then you will get the right pronunciation. And that's what I did. And I got the right pronunciation.
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it now. And it's just one of those things. It's tricky because as a learner, when you don't have an authority that says, I know this is correct or incorrect, you could be left a little bit adrift. That's a tough one, isn't it?
How do you judge it?
That's right. That's a tough one.
So in this case, Chris had a good idea. Go straight to the movie, or if you don't watch the whole movie, just find a little clip from the movie. They'll probably mention Timon, not Timon. So that's one thing. I said there were two words. The other word is meerkat, and that's because it comes from Dutch. And in Dutch, E is pronounced A. So I said meerkat. I wasn't sure. It means sea. And Chris just popped right back with meerkat, and that solved that.
Interestingly, meerkat means long-tailed monkey in Dutch.
Oh.
I don't know. I agree with you that, number one, they look like a cat. I don't know how the monkey part got in there. But I agree when you said they kind of look like people, and I had never really thought of that. I very much thought of them as like, what if you took a mouse and a cat and you put them together? But when you said people, I'm like, yeah, you're right about that. They're very human in their upright posture, the way they stare at you, the arms straight down.
Exactly.
You do see yourself in them, don't you?
Yes.
I wonder if that doesn't like subtly contribute to their popularity.
I'm
They're
sure,
just like
probably
us.
not so subtly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Before we go to our next sentence, I want to point out a short thing with this. Something my students, I teach slightly younger students than Karen here, something my students often struggle with is anyone who has seen this movie. It's like, teacher, I saw this movie in the past. Why are we using the present perfect? And the reason is we still have this experience, even though it was in the past. And I will tell you, I carry the experience from originally seeing this movie in 1994 to today. I remember those opening moments with that dramatic opening song. Like from the very first seconds, like I'm literally getting goosebumps here thinking about that opening seconds of that movie.
How old were you?
I might have been 13.
Wow.
And I was not a Disney movie fan. I was not into that Disney movie, and it struck me.
You were mostly past the cartoon phase in your life.
Yeah. And so I still have that experience with me there. Therefore, we should use the present perfect tense to emphasize this experience.
Still with you. It's something that is still relevant in the present. Now, it may seem kind of crazy that I have not seen this movie, but I have to say, I don't like watching movies. I don't like watching TV. I don't do much of either, unless it's a really important movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I realized I had to see that movie, so I've divided it up into 10 sittings, and I finished the movie.
I do that, too. I'm really bad at watching TV and movies, even stuff I really like. I just can't commit to it, and if I'm committing to a movie, I'll watch it in parts, and some of my friends think this is absolutely crazy.
I bet we're not the only ones. And the other reason is going to sound really crazy is I know that somebody important dies. And I can't stand watching bad things happen to people. And there's no movie where nothing bad happens to anybody. So that's one reason that I didn't watch it.
Well, speaking of bad things happening, our next line will actually talk about our 3 characters that we'll be focusing on before we move into the article proper.
Okay, so to go over the first sentence again, anyone who has seen, just keep that in mind as a chunk. It's very, very useful. Anybody who has done this before, anybody who has been to France or whatever, anybody who has add whatever. Okay, and The Lion King. They're assuming that most readers have. I have not. One of the most popular characters is, that's one of the most, something is, another great structure. And then Timon. So make sure you look it up if you don't know how to say it and try several sources. Okay, on to the next sentence. Timon, along with his best friend Pumbaa, provides Simba, the movie's protagonist, with what he needs the most. When they first encounter him, kindness and loyalty. The sentence is kind of long and there are a lot of parts to it, so you got to kind of keep the whole thing in your head as you're reading it. So the first thing is the word protagonist. Protagonist simply means the main character. And the one who keeps creating problems for the main character is called the antagonist. The protagonist, the antagonist.
So in this story, Pumbaa and Timon come in about maybe 1/3 through the movie. And so Simba is this young lion. His father is teaching him how to be the future king of his kingdom here. But his father's killed and his uncle takes over. And his uncle tells Simba to run away and never return, ostensibly to protect Simba, but really the uncle just wants to get rid of Simba here, who has the rightful claim to the throne. And while he's running away, being fearful, there are other creatures hunting him. He bumps into Timon and Pumbaa, who are just goofy, fun characters, and they take the movie from this very dark moment to something a lot lighter with song and dance, and they're eating bugs and they're smelly, and they're genuinely funny characters. Even today, they're still quite funny, even though they're kind of focused on like pee-pee poo-poo humor.
Oh, well, that's what you have when you have animals, is a lot of that.
Meerkats are related to ferrets. They smell.
And I wanted to say, this idea of an uncle wanting to get power, that sounds like Shakespeare.
It's exceptionally common in history, where you have an uncle wanting control, but you have a son because of the way birthright. I mean, this is really common in Chinese history, like birthright of sons and all that.
Oh, yeah. I am now reading the Zuo commentary of the Spring and Autumn Annals. It's a really difficult work, but it's something on my bucket list I want to do, and that happens all the time. There was one time when it didn't happen, and they wrote specifically in the history, this time there was no power struggle. That was really unusual.
That is a pretty funny, I suppose so. That is very notable in Chinese history. During this period, no war. That's pretty exceptional. I agree.
Because usually a lot of people are murdered. People of this, they'll wipe out a whole family in order to get power. But one interesting thing about this particular case that I'm thinking of, the person who became the ruler was only 4 years old. So I think they had the whole power system set up and very stable, and they just let the kid come in and take over in name only. Okay, anyway, back to our article. So Timon, together with his best friend Pumbaa, we have a new character here, provides Simba, another character, and that's the main character of the whole movie. That's the protagonist that we were just talking about. So with what? Provides with. We've jumped over a little bit. He provides Simba with the thing that he needs most when they first encounter him, and the thing he needs most is kindness and loyalty. And those are things we all need most, I think. Okay, on to the second paragraph.
While millions of young children have viewed this classic movie, many of them might not be aware that Timon is actually a real-life meerkat, a small mammal native to the desert lands of southern Africa.
Oh, that is something interesting to know. Are they saying that the character Timon was based on a particular meerkat, or are they just saying that meerkats are real animals?
I think they're saying that meerkats are real animals. I do agree that this sentence it's maybe a little ambiguous. Was there a meerkat that inspired Timon?
Yeah,
and as far as I could tell, that answer is no. They just studied meerkats. I remember Disney animators going to the zoo and drawing them and watching them.
Okay, that makes that clear. So now we're going to find out about real-life meerkats.
So pay attention to a couple words here. Native to means they're local to a place, and that native to is just like the word national. But pay attention to the way the vowels are said. Native versus national.
And also nation.
And, of course, probably the one that every teacher in the world just yells about. We don't say southern, we say southern with a short U sound. Please be careful of that, and be aware it just means to know something.
And don't say southern. There's only one th sound, and it's southern.
Let's move on to our next sentence. Meerkats have a unique and adorable appearance, primarily characterized by an upright standing posture and dark patches around their eyes.
Right. And the arms hanging down, I think, is another really important thing, because they look at you like they're just waiting for you to tell them something.
They live in grassy, dry areas, and they are colored the same color as dried grass. And so when they stand up, they can kind of peek out, except for their little eyes. And so they're quite good at hiding and camouflage.
Yeah.
They're pretty hard to spot unless you're really looking for them.
Okay, so a unique, that means there's no other animal quite like them, and I think that's probably true. Adorable, when you see them, you just love them. You think they're so cute. Appearance is the way you look. Primarily means mainly or mostly. Characterized means it is in this aspect that they are unique and adorable. And what is that aspect? There are two of them. Standing up straight, an upright standing posture. Posture is the way you position your body. Upright, standing up straight instead of down on four legs, and dark patches around their eyes. Lots of animals have that, like pandas maybe. But that upright standing posture is really interesting.
So meerkats actually have black skin, and the reason they do this is because they have that kind of tan fur on the outside so that they can camouflage and hide themselves in the grass. But being in the burrow underground that we'll talk about later gets them kind of cold, and so in the mornings they'll come up and they'll show their bellies, and that nice black belly helps absorb the sun.
What an interesting fact.
Let's continue. Particularly, it is their standing pose that sets them apart from other mammals, most of which feel more comfortable on four legs.
It's interesting the way they phrase that, because that implies that most mammals do walk on four legs, but they could possibly stand up. You see videos of cats walking on two legs, and they're very funny. And bears especially, they can walk for quite a long time on just two legs. And then, of course, there are like orangutans and other monkeys that will often walk on two legs.
Humans are really notable because we're bipedal. Bipedal means we walk on two legs mainly. Other animals can walk on their two legs, but they don't really mostly do that. When they're running away from something or trying to catch something, they will be on all four legs, and this is called quadrupedal.
That's right. And if you are walking with four of your limbs, we can say you're crawling, or to get down on all fours. That's an idiom in English, to get down on all fours. Okay, let's go on to the next paragraph. Despite their cute appearance, meerkats must adopt clever strategies to survive in the harsh desert environment.
So harsh just means brutal. It is not forgiving.
Very extreme.
It is very difficult to live there. And please be careful. Don't say must to adopt. Remember, must is a modal verb. We're not going to say must to.
They are highly cooperative and social animals living in family groups known as mobs. And that also makes them more like people. We are also very social creatures. You may think, I don't like dealing with other people. I just want to hide away behind my computer. But we can't do that for very long. Humans really have to have other people around.
I'm not sure I like the word mobs here. I think we discussed this before, where these animals, they have their cute little group names. I'm not a fan of this. I tried to find out if this is an accepted term or this is one of those cute, countable terms that we're just sticking on animals because it's funny. A murder of crows or like all of those. Pride. There are some that are accepted, such as a pride of lions. That is an accepted term.
That's okay.
So a meerkat lives in the southern deserts of Africa. And prior to the 1500s, most Europeans did not think humans could live south of the Sahara Desert. The ships couldn't get past it, and they assumed nothing could survive there. Therefore, this term, by definition, can't be all that old. And so it suggests to me that this is a modern term. I can't prove that it is or is not. I'm just not a fan of these like cutesy group
I'm not
names.
either.
Oh,
I don't like them either.
I feel it makes English harder, not easier.
Yeah. And in addition, mobs is a very negative sounding word. If there is a huge crowd of people that is losing control, we'll say mobs of people stormed the Capitol or whatever. Or it means a collection of criminals. So mobs is not a really positive kind of word. Each mob has a dominant female in charge, and the other members of the mob have defined roles to ensure that no task is left undone. And that is one reason for the huge success of human beings on Earth. And that is that we can cooperate. You think that, we don't always get along well, which is true. But in general, think of how much we cooperate just to have our modern life. There's somebody in a store selling you stuff, giving you what you need. They give you your coffee in the morning. They have somebody who's built a building for you to live in. There's somebody else who's providing the heat. So you think of just about everything that we enjoy in modern life is because of humans cooperating and providing it for you. And also note the word defined roles. That means every person has a very special task, so everything gets done. Our next sentence, some serve as watchers who look out for dangerous predators in the sky like eagles and hawks, while others hunt for food, including fruits, insects, small birds, rodents, and lizards.
So a rodent just as a mouse, and there's also an interesting characteristic between who hunts and who doesn't. And meerkats decide who the hunter is based upon who's hungry. So if you're hungry, you'll go hunt, and if not, you'll just stay home and you'll take care of the young meerkats and you'll teach them other things. And they're great teachers. They will actually give the youngest meerkats like dead animals to eat. And then once you grow a little bit bigger, they'll give you a injured animal to eat. And then once you become a pretty big meerkat, you have to hunt it yourself. And so they're very good at kind of leveling up their young to learn as they go along, which I thought was really clever.
Very good educators, better than some humans are at teaching. Meerkat mobs live in homes called burrows, which are essentially underground tunnel systems that enable groups to keep cool in the scorching African sun.
If you have been to New York City, you may know the history that the Dutch originally kind of colonized that area as the Europeans, and they called their areas burrows. And that's the same word here, although it's spelled differently. And a burrow is related to the word bury or bury, some people might say, and that means to cover with earth.
How do you say it?
Bury.
Because I know that in Philadelphia, a lot of people say bury.
Bury, yeah.
Very good. Okay, so underground tunnel systems, that means that they connect. You know, it's not just one tunnel there, it's a whole bunch that connect together. Our final paragraph?
Intelligent and loyal, meerkats are truly not too far removed from the one depicted in the Disney classic.
I was really happy to learn that. So that motivates me even more to see the movie because a lot of times they make up all kinds of stuff that is just not true. But if it really is a lot like real meerkats, that makes it more interesting to me.
When something is depicted, it's just shown. These fascinating creatures are much more than just cute animals and could surely teach us a thing or two about standing up for one another.
So note the part in quotes and also this other idiom here. You know, I could show you a thing or two about pronunciation and phonetics. You know, I could teach you a thing or two. That's a really good idiom to know. And to stand up for someone else, it's a pun on the idea of standing up because they stand up straight. And also it means to defend or protect another person. Let's move on to our questions. Number 1, what is the purpose of the first paragraph?
A, to outline the personalities of meerkats.
Not in the first paragraph. B, to introduce a Disney classic to the readers.
Sorta, I guess, but not really a full answer. C,
yeah.
To set the stage for the discussion of meerkats.
That's what it is.
There you go.
Yeah, and I was glad to see that because if it was just about Disney, I wouldn't have been so excited about it. But learning about an animal is pretty neat. And D, to specify what role Timon plays in Simba's life, not the main point. Number 2.
Which of the following aspects of meerkats are mentioned in the passage?
A, mating behavior. They didn't get into that.
B, physical features.
Yes. C, living habitats. Yes.
D, natural enemies.
They also mentioned that. E, stress response. Did not mention it.
F, dietary habit.
So that means that the correct answer is B, which lists answers B, C, D, and F. Question 3. According to the passage, which of the following is a meerkat least likely to eat? And they've got 4 pictures here. The first one looks like a mouse.
That would be a rodent. B would be fruit. C is insects. And then D is the hawk.
Which is the right answer.
That's right. So the meerkat doesn't eat the hawk.
Yeah, gets eaten by the hawk sometimes. Question 4.
What can be inferred about meerkats from the passage?
A male meerkat rules over the whole family. No, in this case, they're matriarchal. That means the lady is in charge.
B, the division of labor in their mobs is quite clear.
And that is the correct answer. So we're going to stop there. Tune in next time. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.